Hello everyone! I am reporting to you from my trip to Edinburgh, Scotland. I am not drinking tea today as usual in my wrap-ups. We are drinking iron brew. Gotta be honest, not a big fan of this Scottish sweet drink. Isn't this room beautiful, by the way? Like, this is actually, you can't even see, but this is a canopy bed. Today, let's discuss all the books that I recently read. I've been reading a lot of weird, spooky, odd novels, which I think is perfect for the fall time. I only have my e-reader with me here, but I already bought like 7 books while I was here. That'll all appear in the vlog. Oh, I've been going to a lot of pubs, museums, sitting in cafes. I even went to a museum to like sketch, like one of those Sunday sketch afternoons. Amazing. Drawing statues is so hard. It's so difficult, but I had so much fun and I really want to do it more often. Let me show you what I made. I definitely want to continue learning how to do quick sketches. One of the things that's been really helping me actually is this cool class on Craftsy, who is also sponsoring today's video, on quick sketching techniques by Geralda Escamilla. When I was quick sketching, I had no idea where to start, but Gerardo's class had such great tips like establishing a line of action first and establishing broader shapes. Can't wait to apply these tips next time I'm going to a museum. I still have a lot of paper left. But on Craftsy, there are thousands of other amazing classes on crochet, knitting, painting, photography, cake decorating. Look at this cute beginner crochet class for if you want to make a pullover. Or learn how to bake this caramelized apple upside down cake to level up your fall baking. If you also want to learn a new craft, use my link to get a full year of Craftsy Premium for only $1.49. The offer is valid for new members only. So click the link in my description. Now let's chat about these odd books that I've been reading. The first book I want to talk about is Hunger. This is apparently like a Korean cult classic piece of literature, but it was recently translated to English. And the premise of this book is we follow a young woman. I'm pretty sure they're not even named. We follow a young woman whose boyfriend dies. She finds him dead, and because she is kind of overcome with this feeling of obsession and love for him, like no one can come between us, like I want to continue living forever for you, with you inside me. And so she starts cannibalizing on him out of this idea of like, if you are into my body, I will make sure that I will live forever so that we together can still live forever together. Crazy concept, and I love that. I love cannibalism as a metaphor for love and obsession. But yes, this book is about obsessive love. Like, the relationship that these two have is not always very healthy. They get to know each other in high school. They don't immediately fall in love, but they have this almost kind of like bullying relationship. And over the years, their relationship progresses into just something romantic, but also something a little bit obsessive, where they are very codependent on each other. But mostly, this is a book not necessarily about love, but about the horrors of the workforce, especially in Korea. The male character is slowly getting heavily into debt, to the point that he really cannot provide for his family anymore, and also not for our female main character when they are together. This debt problem just keeps spiraling. He has people coming after him. He has to take on all these different kinds of jobs, working insane hours, insane jobs, just to not even pay off his debts, but just to be able to keep his head above water even a little bit. Yes, this book does start out as like a story about obsessive love, but it is also mostly a critique on the working conditions and like the hyper-capitalism that exists in Korea, that makes it so that some people live this life where they're basically not living a life at all, they're only slaving away. It's a very interesting look at this side of Korea, and then also how this does influence the relationship, because they truly just have nothing else but each other. So it is a little bit horror-ish in the sense that there's some body horror. I wouldn't say this book is scary at all, but yeah, there are some weird scenes where she eats him. So I would say it's not for the squeamish amongst us, but I wouldn't say that it's scary in any way. I know that cannibalism as a metaphor for obsessive love is very popular, and I just want to tell you this book, you know? I just want to reach this book to you, like, read this. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read a book called Bear. I'd never heard of this, but I just saw it in a bookstore. The way it was described was kind of mystical, magical, about this bear in a forest. So I thought it was going to be like, you know, kind of whimsical, maybe a little magical. It was not. It was not at all. Like, this was just pure literary fiction, like contemporary fiction, nothing supernatural going on at all. So I just want to say that in case that is also a hope that you have. But we are following these 2 sisters that live on this really small island by the coast of Washington. Our main character is not really living a really great, amazing, inspiring life. She just has this job that she doesn't really like, but she's just waiting to move away from the island with her sister. Like, that is the thing she's been looking forward to her entire life. But they live in the forest, and at some point this bear comes by that just walks around their house, and these sisters are like, oh my gosh, there's a bear, like, what do we need to do? Like, we need to get rid of it. So this play starts, this little weird cat and mouse thing starts, where they're constantly trying to contact like animal services, and they're saying like it's really not that bad, but our main character keeps saying like, no, I really think that he's very dangerous. And this book really gives you that feeling of, I don't know what's real and what's not. I don't know who to believe. I genuinely don't know if this beer is actually dangerous or if our main character is indeed kind of exaggerating. But the specific thing is that the sister has this kind of intrigue with the bear. She's intrigued with him. She's fascinated. She keeps trying to like get into contact with him, basically almost domesticate him. And our main character is like, what are you doing? Like, that's a bear. In the end, this is not really a book about a bear, but it's more about this relationship between these 2 sisters and the miscommunication, mostly that happens between them, and the different goals that they have, the different things that they want in life, and also just this disconnect between these 2 sisters and the rest of the island, especially our main character, who keeps saying this bear is dangerous, and then everyone else is like, no, I'm sure it's fine, you're just exaggerating. I am still not entirely sure what the point of this book was, but what I do know is that it was very like kind of on the edge of your seat, this like underlying bit of tension that pulls out constantly, where you're like, I don't know what is going to happen or what this bear is going to do. My main disappointment with this book is that I just think it could have been weirder. It really could have been weirder. Like, it stays really tame literary fiction. I was hoping it would go like Mona Awad, where it just goes super off the rails crazy. It doesn't. It remains super tame, very grounded, and that is just not my personal preference. I like it when books get a little weird, you know? I think that strengthens the story and the theme. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The next book I read, for some reason, still fits this vibe of like books about people who are like really unhappy in their job and like in society. I read Discontent, which is a book that is translated from Spanish. The author is from Spain, and we follow a woman who works in marketing. She has everything. She's very put together. She's good at her job, but she's extremely aware of just how bullshit it is. That she's just yapping and saying things that don't mean anything, and people just buy it. People just believe her. This book is mostly really funny and satirical and cynical even. Like, this woman is just constantly during work hours watching cat videos in her office. Like, even BookTube is mentioned at some point. Her whole career is just keeping up appearances that she knows what she's doing and that she's working when actually she's not working at all. I'm actually, by the way, I'm really wondering if the author read Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber, which I'm also currently reading, which is about this phenomenon of people having jobs where they basically don't really do that much, and most of the time they are just convincing other people that they are doing work when they're actually not really doing work. That is a real life phenomenon, as something that I think about like a third of the workforce experiences, and this book Discontent is about a woman who is experiencing that. There isn't really a plot to this book. Like, the entire story is just this wonderful, funny, and cynical critique of hyperconsumerism, bullshit jobs, the hell of corporate life, toxic positivity, the way brands try to pretend that they're progressive and sustainable when they're really not. It's about hating social media, but also feeling pressure to participate in it. The problem with algorithms. Like, you know what? Actually, you know what this book felt like? It felt like the author loves watching YouTube video essays, and I love that because I am also that. If you like watching political kind of progressive feminist video essays on YouTube, you're gonna love this book. This is not a book for people who want their main characters to be likable, okay? Our main character is just lying constantly doing the wrong things. It's like a corporate Fleabag or a corporate BoJack Horseman. Now, I personally don't have a corporate job, thank God, but I still think if you don't have a corporate job, this book will still be relatable, because it's just generally about this feeling of always having to prove to other people that you're doing well and having to keep up like appearances that everything's going great. This feeling that everyone around you is always doing better than you are and trying to keep up with that, while also having to deal with the hellscape that is modern technology. One of the quotes that really stuck with me is the main character at some point says, "You could choose that I, when I was given the choice between being happy and buying more stuff, chose to buy more stuff." If that doesn't sum up our current Western culture. My only critique of this book is that it doesn't really go anywhere because there is no plot. And I was a little disappointed with the ending because it didn't feel like a satisfying climax for what was such an amazing critique of the world right now. And my other gripe with this book is that it is so obvious that this book is just a voice for the author to like voice her opinions to us, as if she is making a YouTube video essay. It is one of those books where I sometimes wonder, like, maybe they should have just written an essay. But because the book was so funny and so cynical, I do actually think that there was merit to this being a work of fiction. Then another weird book that I read this while being here. I started Paradise Rot because I wanted to get into some more horror. Also, reading this book made me realize that I have a thing for the very niche genre of books about two sapphic girls in a weird house where they have a growing tension between them, and there is a fruit symbolism going on. I saw it in The Safekeep, and now I'm seeing it again in Paradise Rot. Paradise Rot has been translated from Norwegian, and we follow this Norwegian girl that goes to study in this, I think, made-up village somewhere in the United Kingdom. She is kind of lonely, she's shy, she's not really getting on with the other people. She has a hard time finding a house because of this, and then she just ends up living in this house that is this old brewery. It is like huge and open, there's very little privacy, and she lives there with this girl that is like a few years older than her, and slowly but surely they, I would say, almost grow into each other. Like, at night she finds this woman laying in her bed, for example. And one of the things that this book does so well is that without much dialogue, without much things happening, there is this slowly growing underlying tension, underlying feeling of, where is this going? It doesn't feel very romantic, at least not to me, because there is this horror element of just things that are so uncomfortable. The way that the author describes humans and things is so like, ugh, kind of makes your skin crawl. And the main character, our Norwegian girl, is also studying mycology, so fungi. And this is also, love it. Love that. An ongoing theme in the book where slowly this big house is kind of getting moist and wet and a mold starts to grow and fungi starts to grow, and it's almost like this metaphor for people growing into each other almost. Wonderful little weird little book about an obsessive sapphic relationship between two girls. Will say, again, my only critique, I just didn't really get the romance. Like, the romance was like, why? Genuinely, why? Is it because of the mold? It just made you go a little crazy? Because that's what it feels like. Just like Hunger, this is a horror book that is not scary. It's just uncomfortable and weird. There's a little bit of body horror in there as well. Just like with Hunger, this is the kind of horror that I just really like. Oh, let's talk about a non-fiction book I read. A few videos ago, I told you about this book that I got, this feminist book that I got called Caliban and the Witch. I've been really interested in like this concept of the witch hunts and why this mostly happened to women. It's actually interesting that now that I'm here in Edinburgh, Scotland, because this is where a lot of those witch hunts took place, and there's a lot of history about that in here as well. But I tried to read it and I just realized it's so academic, and I don't have an academic background in political science or sociology, and it's very clear that the author is coming at it from a very academic political angle, and while I was reading it I just felt like I was missing some context, right? So what I decided is to first read Witches, Witch Hunting and Women by the same author, Silvia Federici, which is basically the same book except shorter and written for a broader audience, because I thought then at least I get to already see her main points, and then once I know those, I can jump into the more detailed academic version of the book, being Caliban and the Witch. This was really interesting. I have made so many notes on this book, and I still don't really know what I thought of it. It is basically this grand overview of what happened during the witch hunts, but particular what the author thinks that the underlying reasons are for it, specifically why were women targeted. I'm sure we all know that the victims of witch hunts weren't actual witches. It was usually single women, older women, poor women, women that were outcasts, women that were seen as having too much power. And the author really goes into her personal theories on why these hunts started happening and why it specifically started happening to women. Her main thesis is that it is caused by capitalism, and she goes over how the people accused of witch hunts were women who had their land being enclosed and they just refused to give away their lands. This book also goes into modern versions of witch hunts. We still have witch hunts in a lot of African countries, and this also tends to happen on parts where land is being privatized and being enclosed. And of course there's like the religious element of people having this fear of the devil, this fear of their neighbor, this idea that the devil could be in anyone. And of course this is mostly women because we already have some original sin. She also goes into why specifically women, and she talks about the power that is seen in the fact that women have reproductive abilities. We can make babies, and according to Silvia Federici, this is what capitalism saw as like something that needed to have power over. She goes into how sexuality is demonized in women. She goes into how gossip is demonized in women and how people wanted to stop women from talking to each other basically and having social circles with each other, aka gossip. And like I said, she puts a lot of emphasis on the fact that witch hunts are not over. Like, this is not some historical thing that just happened in Scotland and England and Germany and Switzerland. Like, it is still happening to women, especially in African countries. I thought this was super interesting. It is very, very clearly just like her theory. And there were many moments while reading it that I thought, like, I don't know if I believe you. Some of her ideas I thought were a little far-fetched or not supported enough. Like, she tends to make pretty broad, big sweeping claims and then doesn't really support them. But again, maybe that is just because I lack a kind of political academic background to understand what she's talking about. I'm not sure. Actually, I would really like to know if there are people in the audience that have read Silvia Federici's work. I would like to know, like, how are her ideas accepted in the academic world, in the political world? I am now even more excited to get into Caliban in The Witch. Oh, then I also want to talk about the fact that I started reading Alchemised by SenLinYu, aka the published version of Manacled, which was a Draco Hermione fanfiction that completely blew up a few years ago. I started reading it because it was so hyped up, and I never finished the original fanfiction, but I was kind of obsessed with it, to be honest. Like, I really flew through it, never finished it, and was therefore really interested in reading the final published version. I'm not interested in anything Harry Potter related. I don't really want to give money or encourage anyone to give money to J.K. Rowling, but I felt like this was so far removed from the original. Like, it's a new version of a fan fiction of the original Harry Potter books. And it's clear that the author SenLinYu put a lot of like her original effort into this. But I'm gonna be honest, guys, this book is 1,000 pages. I got 300 pages into it. Okay, that's a full book. I basically read a full book, and I just couldn't get past it. The idea of this novel is that it takes place in this world where basically the evil guy has won, Voldemort, basically. And we follow this girl, Helena, Hermione, who is captured by the enemy, and they want to see her memories because they know that her memories will have interesting information about the resistance, because she was a healer in the resistance, but her memories are closed off, so she is stuck in this enemy territory. And every day the High Reeve Farron, Draco Malfoy comes in and tries to like magically pry open her memories, basically, to get some information about the resistance. It is originally a Hermione fanfiction, so we all understand that this is going to go towards a romance. But I will say, I have so many like random thoughts about this book. This is gonna sound super disjointed, but first of all, this is really dark. Like, really, really dark. It's very gory. I would even go as far as to say that this could qualify as horror, with just the amount of violence and gore that there is in here and how uncomfortable it makes the reader feel, like on purpose. And at first I was really hesitant because I was like, how is this going to be a romance? Like, oh, it's just going to be another one of those books that just glorifies and romanticizes super toxic dynamics. Again, I haven't finished the book, so I don't know where it goes, but so far I think this is finally a good example of how you can write a romance, a dark romance that has really dark themes without romanticizing it. Like, yes, there's this growing romance between these two, and it's really twisted and really dark and kind of Stockholm syndrome-y, and they do really toxic things to each other, but it's never romanticized. It's just the story. There's never this thing of like, oh, he was like better than any other man I've ever had. It's just like, no, you see these two twisted characters fall for each other as a result of the twisted environment that they are in. And it's actually pretty well done. Also, I think SenLinYu did a great job at creating her own world building. Like, there is necromancy and then vivimancy, which is like the life version of necromancy, where people can basically be bloodbenders. Cool. Really, really cool. You can tell that they did a lot of research on like the political environment that they wanted to create here. However, and this is the main reason that I just couldn't get through the book, and that is that it's so obviously based on a fan fiction, right? Like, the original fan fiction takes place after the first 8 books of Harry Potter. Okay, it is like post-war, where Voldemort has won. We have 8 books of lore to build on that doesn't need to be explained in a fan fiction. But here, we are just thrown into the story, and we have to learn the world building. We have to get to know all the characters. We have to learn how the magic system works. We have to learn about the political environment. Like, there is so much background information that we need to learn about that just takes forever and is given to us in the form of info dumps. Just long swaths of info dumps. Normally, when you're reading a fantasy book, you slowly get introduced to the world and the characters through scenes where you meet the characters, through scenes where you get to see the magic in action. Here you can't have that because our main character is captured by the enemy. So we just get random like memory explanation of like, oh, this person in my past that I care about and this person in my past that I care about. Where in the fan fiction you would be like, oh, that's Harry Potter. Oh, that's Ron Weasley. But here I'm just like, who's Luke? And why should I care about him? I've never seen him on the page. There's a moment where one of the side characters just talks to Helena, our main character, and just info dumps her entire backstory in dialogue to Helena. And that is a surefire way to make me not care about your characters if it's just based on telling instead of showing, on info dump after info dump after info dump. Do let me know. Is it genuinely worth reading more? Should I push through? And finally, the book that I just finished that is on my nightstand. I went into a bookstore and I saw this book and I was like, wow, that sounds awful, but also kind of funny and hilarious and like something easy and quick to read, which is what I need right now. But I was like, I'm not gonna buy the hardcover of that, so I just bought the ebook. It is called, get ready for the most amazing title of your life, Love at First Fright. It is about a horror writer whose book is being adapted into the movie, and the lead male of this movie, she hates him because she feels like he is not the right fit for the role. But then of course she meets him and they have crazy chemistry and he's also a big fan of horror. Here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem that I have with these kinds of books. When I read the back of the book, it does say that it's like a spicy romance, which I like, okay? I was in the mood for that. But that's kind of all the information you get. So I download the ebook and it opens with like a bunch of content warnings and all the like type of spice that was gonna be in there. And I read that, I'm like, oh, didn't know it was gonna be like that. But you know what? We're reading it anyway. And I will say, is this book good? No. It's particularly poorly written, very show don't tell, however extremely easy to read. Like you can blast through this because yet again everything is just told to you and like over explained to you to the point that you have to do not a single ounce of thinking. It is actually also pretty funny, and I just really like the concept of this book, that it is about this horror writer. I think that's cool, that falls in love with like the movie star for her movie. That's a really cool concept. The spy scenes are pretty, I would say, kind of crude, which is not my style, but I know that some people enjoy that. It was not particularly good, but it was kind of, I guess, what I wanted. And I got what I knew that this was gonna be, and that was just a quick and easy to read, spicy, funny romance. There's like a B plot line with ghosts, because our horror writer can see ghosts, and she meets these two ghosts that are in like a sapphic relationship, but they can't be out because they are ghosts from like the past century. And honestly, that side plot, loved the romance there. Way more pining because they're ghosts. So yeah, would I recommend this? Not necessarily. It's just one of those books where you're like, yeah, was just in the mood for it. It gave what I wanted and it wasn't very good, but I did have a good time. Also, the main guy, he's Scottish. Didn't even know that. Didn't even choose it based on that. And he keeps calling our main character love, to the point where almost every single sentence that he speaks to her ends with love. What you doing, love? Hello, love. Nice to see you, love. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was really cute the first 2 times. Please stop. Well, I bought a lot of books here in Scotland, so I have a lot to go on for the next couple of weeks. Like I said, there will be a vlog where I will show you all of that, of course. I think I'm gonna put on my thermal tights. I'm gonna go to a little coffee shop and do some reading. The book that I'm currently reading in is one that I bought yesterday. It is Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again by Catherine Angel, which is a nonfiction about like the current state of consent and desire in feminism. Actually, I should not be reading this in a cafe, because look at this cover. The title Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again is a reference to Michel Foucault and his criticism of 60s and 70s hippies culture. But if you just look at this cover, the only thing that you see quickly, you just see sex good. So maybe I should not be reading this in a coffee shop. Maybe I'll just take my journal and do some journaling. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for more like weird, odd horror novels, send them my way. I love that. I really hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon in another video very soon. Goodbye!